meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves an amazing day. This is the Law of One series. We've got sessions 73 and 74. It's kind of a fun one. I wanted to start off just so important to me and has been, and I think a lot of this has been shaped by this and just many books. Obviously Esther Hicks, Neville Goddard, just some brilliant people. The guy that got at the beginning of this, Watts. Again, just amazing people with thoughts that really inspired deeper thinking and trying to understand what it is that I, as an individual, experience. And you are having your experience. Now, I know a lot of us feel like we're in this thing with all these other people and that this is a co-created event. And it is. It is. But what I want a lot of people to really pay attention to is how much of your own individual time is just you. How many times is it you just walking through the house doing something? Or how many times is it you that's driving in the car? Maybe there's people around you, but they're not in the car with you while you're singing or talking to yourself or on the phone or whatever. We create our environments. We create our realities. What we experience individually is because of who we are, what we are, how we are. It is all meant to be catalyst. It's all meant to drive change internally, period. End of story. There's nothing that happens outside of yourself that's not essentially meant for you. And the question's always why? Do you like it? If you like it, keep doing what you're doing. Everything's groovy. If you don't like it, if it's bad, I always get cut off. Really? How often do you say that? Like every day when I get cut off. Well, maybe because of that belief, you continue to get cut off. Start to realize that my thoughts have bearing on my reality. It's one of the most important things that, if not the most important thing, that we are here to figure out. Your thoughts are powerful. Your focus is powerful. You can move mountains with it. If you truly tune it and get it dialed in and stop doing destructive things with it, like getting mad at people. I wish you were dead. But thud, and they just fall over. Whoops. Right? Jesus, there's a fun story, whether it's true or false, about his first playmate that he might have done something to on accident, and that was when he realized, oh, dang. And again, this would have been, on a soul level, would have been appreciated in advance. This is why we're here. This is what's going on right now. And this is the graduation. This is the test, I guess. So please understand what's happening is you're involved. You're a big part of that. You're a significant player in your own reality. And then from there, once you get that dialed in, is where we expand it to the next level, where we as a bubble start to work with other bubbles and try to form together a cohesion. That's a whole another step, but you don't want a lot of commotion going on inside other people's bubbles, right? So again, very important. All right, 73, 74, they get into invocation and evocation. These guys were really into magic, white magic. I'm not. I've learned a little bit. I've never learned spells or anything crazy like that. I understand some of it. There's, it was never really a direction I wanted to go. I found manifesting was pretty much simple enough and good enough, and you don't need to do all this crazy stuff. And I find that some magic oftentimes seems to be trying to interact with things outside of ourselves and affect others. And I find that karmically to be problematic. So I don't play around with that, and I've known not to. So it's just something I've not gotten into. Some of you guys probably know far more about magic than I, but I have known a number of witches in my life, by the way. So all said, they get into the invocation, evocation. Don't get lost in the words. Essentially, invocation's kind of the God energy. It's kind of what's coming into you, your higher self, God, whichever, all the above. And then there is the evocation, which is kind of that I am presence, that will, that I'm going to do this kind of grit. But that's what comes up through your feet. These two energies meet in the middle, for lack of a better way to envision it. And where they meet is your consciousness, is you and your experiences. And you can shift those things in different directions depending on a number of factors. How you partake, how you think, what you're sending out. There's certain aspects that are going to turn that indigo ray energy to a cleaner vibe, if you will. So they talk a lot of that stuff. Healing and free will. I think there's a lot of people that like to give themselves a lot of credit when it comes to being a healer. And I say step back from that for a second, because there's no special skill that's been bestowed upon anybody to be able to heal. Healing is where the energy comes through you. And if you think you're unique in some sort of way, that's ego. And that's usually what leads us way into the dark side. So again, it's not... it's like Jesus, I think, said, these things you shall do, right? We're all capable of doing this. Just most people don't go into those paths, don't feel the need to. And again, it's just one of those, it's very important to understand that. And they do talk about healing and kind of how that works and how free will is involved, and they get it from a magic standpoint. Energy transfers, we've talked a lot about. I've said before, Celestine Prophecies, C-E-L-E, Steen. It's I think, an amazing book. Can read it, don't read it. I'm not necessarily... James Redfield's awesome. I've read all 4 of them. I believe there are. Highly recommend this series. But the first one particularly really, really gets into energy transfers. And I think it's extremely important to understand that we're guilty of doing it to others, and we're guilty of being a part of it with others. It's not healthy. It's also one of those things that we have to learn. Again, what's happening to you? Why is it happening to you? I'm giving my energy away. I always feel exhausted when I hang out with them, yet I still keep hanging out with them. You don't have to. You can identify what's going on and stop doing it. This is about learning how our energy dynamic works. And I think Law of One is one of the best sources out there that really kind of breaks down a lot of this stuff. Finally, energy transfer is very similar to the concept of teach, learn, teach, right? The idea of, in order to even have this way to understand something better is to put yourself in the position where you're having to learn it, right? And they always say the steps to teaching somebody, if you're going to train somebody, right? You show them, right? That's usually the last step, but you show them, you tell them, and you let them do it, right? So there's the 3 steps, right? They see it, they hear it, and then they do it. Now, the actual 4th step of learning something, and this is the step to mastery, is now teaching it. And so it's key also to understand these components all together. All right, all set. We're going to hop into 73 right here. This is the Law of One session on the Fringe. Love you guys. See how you feel about this. Check it out. On Session 73, recorded October 21st, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me an indication of the instrument's condition? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated, with the exception of the vital energy levels, which is distorted more nearly towards that which is normal for this entity. Questioner, has the banishing ritual that we have performed been helpful for this contact? Ra, I am Ra. The ritual described has gained with each working in making efficacious the purity of contact needed not only for the Ra contact, but for any working of the adept. Questioner, thank you. We would like to thank Ra at this time for the opportunity to be of service for those on this sphere who would like to have the information that we gain here to disseminate. You stated that free will, one pointed in service to others, had the potential of alerting a great mass of light strength. I assume that the same holds precisely true for the service to self polarity. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect, but subtly so. In invocation and evocation of what may be termed negative entities or qualities, the expression alerts the positively oriented equivalent. However, those upon the service to others' path wait to be called and can only send love. Questioner, what I was trying to get at was that this alerting of light strength is, as I see it, a process that must be totally a function of free will, as you say, and as the desire and will and purity of desire of the adept or operator increases, the alerting of light strength increases. Is this part of the same for both positive and negative potentials? And am I correct with this statement? Ra, I am Ra. To avoid confusion, we shall simply restate for clarity your correct assumption. Those who are upon the service to others' path may call upon the light strength in direct proportion to the strength and purity of their will to serve. Those upon the service to self path may call upon the dark strength in direct proportion to the strength and purity of their will to serve. Questioner, I will undoubtedly make many errors in my statements today because what I am going to do is try to guess at how this works and let you correct me. In considering the exercise of the middle pillar, I have thought it to be wrong in that the adept sees or visualizes light moving downward from the crown chakra down to the feet. Ra has stated that the Creator enters from the feet and moves upward, and that this spiraling light enters from the feet and moves upward. It seems to me that an adept alerting light strength in visualizing the use of this would visualize it entering in the direction of the feet and energizing first the red energy centers, and moving upward through the energy centers in that fashion. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, could you tell me how I am wrong in that statement? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, would you please do that? Ra, I am Ra. There are two concepts with which you deal. The first is the great way of the development of the light in the microcosmic mind-body-spirit. It is assumed that an adept will have its energy centers functioning smoothly and in a balanced manner to its best efforts before a magical working. All magical workings are based upon evocation and or invocation. The first invocation of any magical working is that invocation of the magical personality, as you are familiar with this term. In the working of which you speak, the first station is the beginning of the invocation of this magical personality, which is invoked by the motion of putting on something. Since you do not have an item of apparel or talisman, the gesture which you have made is appropriate. The second station is the evocation of the great cross of life. This is an extension of the magical personality to become the creator. Again, all invocations and evocations are drawn through the violet energy center. This may then be continued towards whatever energy centers are desired to be used. Questioner, then will you speak of the difference between the spiraling light that enters through the feet and the light invoked through the crown chakra? Ra, I am Ra. The action of the upward spiraling light drawn by the will to meet the inner light of the one infinite creator may be likened to the beating of the heart and the movement of the muscles surrounding the lungs and all the other functions of the parasympathetic nervous system. The calling of the adept may be likened to those nerve and muscle actions over which the mind-body-spirit complex has conscious control. Questioner, Previously you stated, I believe I'm correct in saying this, that where the two directions meet, you have a measure, let us say, of the development of any particular mind-body-spirit complex. Am I correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. In invoking the alerted light, then, it would seem to me that the visualization of the invocation would be dependent upon what the use was to be of the light. The use could be for healing, could be for communication, or it could be for the general awareness, you might say, of the creation and the Creator. Would you please speak on this process and my correctness in making this assumption? Ra. I am Ra. We shall offer some thoughts, though it is doubtful that we may exhaust this subject. Each visualization, regardless of the point of the working, begins with some work within the indigo ray. As you may be aware, the ritual which you have begun is completely working within the indigo ray. This is well, for it is the gateway. From this beginning, light may be invoked for communication or for healing. You may note that in the ritual which we offered you to properly begin the raw workings, the first focus is upon the Creator. We would further note a point which is both subtle and of some interest. The upward spiraling light developed in its path by the will, and ultimately reaching a high place of meeting with the inward fire of the one Creator, still is only preparation for the work upon the mind, body, spirit, which may be done by the adept. There is some crystallization of the energy centers used during each working, so that the magician becomes more and more that which it seeks. More importantly, the time, space, mind, body, spirit analog, which is evoked as the magical personality, has its only opportunity to gain rapidly from the experience of the catalytic action available to the third density space-time mind-body-spirit. Thus, the adept is aiding the Creator greatly by offering great catalyst to a greater portion of the creation which is identified as the mind-body-spirit totality of an entity. Questioner. Desire and will are key factors in this process. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. We would add one quality. In the magical personality, desire, will, and polarity are the keys. Questioner. I would then assume that the many so-called evangelists which we have in our society at present, many have great desire and very great will, and possibly great polarity. It seems to me that in some cases that there is a lack of information or awareness that creates a less than effective working in the magical sense. Am I correct in this analysis? Ra. I am Ra. You are partially correct. In examining the polarity of a service to others working, the free will must be seen as paramount. Those entities of which you speak are attempting to generate positive changes in consciousness while abridging free will. This causes the blockage of the magical nature of the working, except in those cases wherein an entity freely desires to accept the workings of the evangelist, as you have called it. Questioner. What was the orientation with respect to this type of communication for the one known as Jesus of Nazareth? Ra. I am Ra. You may have read some of this entity's workings. It offered itself as teacher to those mind-body-spirit complexes which gathered to hear, and even then spoke as through a veil so as to leave room for those not wishing to hear. When this entity was asked to heal, it ofttimes did so, always ending the workings with two admonitions. Firstly, that the entity healed had been healed by its faith, that is, its ability to allow and accept changes through the violet ray into the gateway of intelligent energy. Secondly, saying always, tell no one. These are the workings which attempt a maximal quality of free will while maintaining fidelity to the positive purity of the working. Questioner. An observation of the working itself by another entity would seem to me to partially abridge free will in that a seemingly magical occurrence had taken place as a result of the workings of an adept. This could be extended to any phenomenon which is other than normally acceptable. Could you speak on this paradox that is immediately the problem of anyone doing healing? Ra. I am Ra. We are humble messengers of the law of one. To us there are no paradoxes. The workings, which seem magical and therefore seem to infringe upon free will, do not, in themselves, do so, for the distortions of perception are as many as the witnesses, and each witness sees what it desires to see. Infringement upon free will occurs in this circumstance only if the entity doing the working ascribes the authorship of this event to itself or to its own skills. Those who state that no working comes from it, but only through it, is infringing upon free will. Ra meant to say, not infringing on free will. See the next question and answer. Questioner, you said that if the entity says that no working comes from it, but only through it, it is also infringing. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. We said that in that event, there is no infringement. Questioner, the one known as Jesus accumulated 12 disciples. What was his purpose in having these disciples with him? Ra, I am Ra. What is the purpose of teach learning if there be no learned teachers? Those drawn to this entity were accepted by this entity without regard for any outcome. This entity accepted the honor duty placed upon it by its nature and its sense that to speak was its mission. Questioner, in the exercise of the fire then, I assume that the healer would be working with the same energy that we spoke of as entering through the crown chakra. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, with some additional notation necessary for your thought in continuing this line of study. When the magical personality has been seated in the green ray energy center for healing work, the energy then may be seen to be the crystalline center through which the body energy is channeled. Thus, this particular form of healing uses both the energy of the adept and the energy of the upward spiraling light. As the green ray center becomes more brilliant, and we would note this brilliance does not imply overactivation, but rather crystallization, the energy of the green ray center of the body complex spirals twice. Firstly, clockwise from the green ray energy center to the right shoulder, through the head, the right elbow, down through the solar plexus, and to the left hand. This sweeps all the body complex energy into a channel, which then rotates the great circle clockwise again from right. We correct this instrument from the left to the feet, to the right hand, to the crown, to the left hand, and so forth. Thus, the incoming body energy, crystallized, regularized, and channeled by the adept's personality, reaching to the green ray energy center, may then pour out the combined energies of the adept, which is incarnate, thus offering the service of healing to an entity requesting that service. This basic situation is accomplished as well when there is an entity which is working through a channel to heal. Questioner, could you tell me how this transfer of light, I believe it would be, would affect the patient to be healed? Ra, I am Ra. The effect is that of polarization. The entity may or may not accept any percentage of this polarized life energy which is being offered. In the occasion of the laying on of the hands, this energy is more specifically channeled, and the opportunity for acceptance of this energy similarly more specific. It may be seen that the King's Chamber effect is not attempted in this form of working, but rather the addition to one whose energies are low, the opportunity for the building up of those energies. Many of your distortions called illness may be aided by such means. Questioner, I'll make a general statement which you can correct. The way I see the overall picture of healer and patient is that the one to be healed has, because of a blockage in one of the energy centers or more, but we will just consider one particular problem. Because of this energy center blockage, the upward spiraling light that creates one of the 7 bodies has been blocked from the maintenance of that body, and this has resulted in a distortion from the perfection of that body, which we call disease, or a bodily anomaly, which is other than perfect. The healer, having suitably configured its energy centers, is able to channel light, the downward pouring light, through its properly configured energy situation to one to be healed. If the one to be healed has the mental configuration of acceptance of this light, the light then enters the physical complex and reconfigures the distortion that was created by the original blockage. I am sure that I have made some mistake in that. Would you please correct them? Ra, I am Ra. Your mistakes were small. We would not at this time attempt a great deal of refinement of that statement, as there is preliminary material which will undoubtedly come forward. We may say that there are various forms of healing. In many, only the energy of the adept is used. In the exercise of fire, some physical complex energy is also channeled. We might note further that when the one wishing to be healed, though sincere, remains unhealed, as you call this distortion, you may consider pre-incarnative choices, and your more helpful aid to such an entity may be the suggestion that it may meditate upon the affirmative uses of whatever limitations it might experience. We would also note that in these cases the indigo ray workings are often of aid. Other than these notes, we do not wish to further comment upon your statement at this working. Questioner, it seems to me that the primary thing of importance for those on the service to others path is the development of an attitude which I can only describe as vibration. This attitude would be developed through meditation, ritual, and a developing appreciation for the creation or creator, which results in a state of mind that can only by me be expressed as an increase in vibration or oneness with all. Could you expand and correct that statement? Ra, I am Ra. We shall not correct this statement, but shall expand upon it by suggesting that to those qualities you may add the living day by day and moment by moment, for the true adept lives more and more as it is. Questioner, thank you. Could you tell me of the number of possible energy transfers between two or more mind-body-spirit complexes? Is it very large, or are there few? Inaudible. Ra, I am Ra. The number is infinite, for is not each mind-body-spirit complex unique? Questioner, could you define this statement? Energy transfer between two mind-body-spirit complexes. Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This entity still has transferred energy available, but we find rapidly increasing distortion towards pain in the neck, the dorsal area, and the wrists and manual appendages. The physical energy transfer may be done numerous ways. We shall give 2 examples. Each begins with some sense of the self as creator, or in some way the magical personality being invoked. This may be consciously or unconsciously done. Firstly, that exercise of which we have spoken called the exercise of fire. This is, though physical energy transfer, not that which is deeply involved in the body complex combination. Thusly, the transfer is subtle, and each transfer unique in what is offered and what is accepted. At this point, we may note that this is the cause for the infinite array of possible energy transfers. The second energy transfer of which we would speak is the sexual energy transfer. This takes place upon a non-magical level by all those entities which vibrate green ray active. It is possible, as in the case of this instrument which dedicates itself to the service of the one infinite creator, to further refine this energy transfer. When the other self also dedicates itself in service to the one infinite creator, the transfer is doubled. Then the amount of energy transferred is dependent only upon the amount of polarized sexual energy created and released. There are refinements from this point onward leading to the realm of the high sexual magic. In the realm of the mental bodies, there are variations of mental energy transferred. This is, again, dependent upon the knowledge sought and the knowledge offered. The most common mental energy transfers is that of the teacher and the pupil. The amount of energy is dependent upon the quality of this offering upon the part of the teacher as regards the purity of the desire to serve and the quality of information offered, and, upon the part of the student, the purity of the desire to learn and the quality of the mind vibratory complex which receives knowledge. Another form of mental energy transfer is that of the listener and the speaker. When the speaker is experiencing mental, emotional, complex distortions towards anguish, sorrow, and other mental pain from what we have said before, you may perhaps garner knowledge of the variations possible in this transfer. The spiritual energy transfers are at the heart of all energy transfers, as a knowledge of self and other self as creator is paramount, and this is spiritual work. The varieties of spiritual energy transfers include those things of which we have spoken this day as we have spoken upon the subjects of the adept. Are there any brief queries before we leave this working? Questioner, only if there is anything we can do to improve the comfort of the instrument or the contact, and secondly, is there anything that you wish not published in today's session? Ra, I am Ra. We call your attention to 2 items. Firstly, it is well that the candle, which spirals 10 degrees each working, be never allowed to gutter, as this would cause imbalance in the alignment of the appurtenances in their protective role for this instrument. Secondly, we might suggest attention to the neck area so that the cushion upon which it is supported be more comfortable. This difficulty has abbreviated many workings. We thank you, my friends, for your consciousness and your fastidiousness with regards to these appurtenances, which, as our workings proceed, seems to be increasing. Secondly, your decisions are completely your own as to that material which you may wish published from this working. I am Ra. I leave you glorying in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. Yeah, so a lot of crazy stuff going on in there, and had some good stuff. I was looking in chat every once in a while, and I don't like to do that typically because it distracts me. But nonetheless, yeah, we got a lot of talk. I do have a question that popped in that I will take here as I finish just some of the key points that jumped out at me on top of the stuff I said before we watched it, which is interesting. Just I should probably let you guys watch it first, and then whatever. Light strength. To me, it kind of, they talk about it a little bit. To me, that kind of equals power. And like I've said before, when we dial in our thoughts, our words, our deeds, when we're making sure that we're spending a majority of that real estate, those thoughts, those words, those deeds, because that's what you create. That's what you send out. That's the noise you make, if you will. If we can make sure our noise is clean, helpful, beneficial, whatever, if you do that, the more you get good at that, the more powerful you tend to become. Magic works the same. That same energy is being utilized basically, but you can throw yourself out of kilter by breaking the rules, for lack of a, well, I mean, that's exactly what it is. Break the rules and you'll kind of get ratcheted down a little bit. So invocation, to me, kind of is like, that's the download almost. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced downloads, but sometimes you'll just get this like weird, like, I don't know, you have a dream or something weird will happen. You're just like, all of a sudden, all this information, you're just like, what just came into me? Like a lot of information, I can't even process it. Like I need a day or two to digest it and regurgitate to myself, and just so I can understand what I went through. Like it's high density, high dimension information transfer. When you open yourself up to it, you'll find it's extraordinarily valuable. But that's the spiraling energy that kind of comes down into us through our crown chakra, our violet ray, if you will, into the indigo. And then from there, it starts to work its way down through the different energy centers. Again, why I feel it's so important to heal these energy centers, because you've also got that evocation energy, that inner will, that's spiraling up through the bottom of you. And that's got to work its way up through your red, your orange, your yellow, then your green, your heart chakra, the big leap between orange and green. It's very important, that leap. That is truly the point. And that's why I think the service to self people can't do it, because it requires faith in something that you just feel. And that's something that's not necessarily in their typical comfort zone. They like to control situations. They don't want to feel their way into anything. So it generally doesn't happen. It can't happen. That's not how they're wired. So it's very different, and that's why they're different paths. But the green, jumping to the green, requires you to feel. And a lot of times that's how you'll find it. You'll find it because something will tell you this is what you need to do. Everything inside of your body will be screaming it at you, but there'll be outside forces, friends, whatever, that'll be like, you shouldn't do it, man. That's totally stupid. That'd be stupid. And then you got to decide. And ultimately, you either make the great leap or you don't. It's much like that movie Indiana Jones, right? The third one with Sean Connery, and all these things racked well to bullets. He was actually walking across that pillar that was painted to look just like everything below it. Well, that was a similar thing, the leap of faith, taking a step without anyone necessarily without being able to see it being supported or proper or whatever. So again, sometimes you have to just kind of take that step. Heart green ray energy, when it comes to healing, this is one of the things they really key in on. If you're someone that's more of service to self and you're trying to do healings, it's probably much trickier, but still doable. If you are someone that is service to others, your green ray is going to be a big key, that love energy. When you're coming at it, from it, through it, with it, you are a much more, I don't want to say powerful healer, but you are essentially. But it still ultimately comes down to the other individual's self being able to accept and frankly wanting and needing you to help with this process. They don't in real life, but in this situation, this might actually help as a catalyst to teach them larger things. And so a lot of times it just depends. There's many factors that go into whether or not healings will work. I think a lot of people think everything's 100% all the time if you're good, and it's like, no, it's not how it works. Sometimes you want to do stuff and the answer's no. Sometimes, one time, energy donation. So I was talking about giving away energy frequently over and over, people that constantly try to take it from you. There's just there's 4 ways they do it. And I've talked about it before. We don't need to go into it now. A lot of you guys are going to read Celestine Prophecies, so you'll learn. That's pretty cool. But sometimes donating energy one time, giving someone a boost up, they're having a tough time, they're feeling low on themselves, and you're like, oh my God, you've got all these great things to go for. That's so great. You're awesome. No, you could do this, right? And then they walk away and I feel better about myself. That, if it spins into them finally solving their problem and working and like if it does that, that's cool. If they end up coming back again tomorrow or next week or whatever, and all poor me, woe is me, my life sucks, and so they want energy again, well, now you're starting to create codependence. Now you're starting to be like a drug to them. Now you're not helping. You want to help, you can help them figure out what's going on in their life that's causing this problem, or you just have to stop giving the energy and can't be that source for them. And so again, it's hard for a lot of people to be able to do that. But ultimately, that is how you heal the other self. The other self has to kind of hit a form of rock bottom or a form of realization, or they're not going to heal. So healing comes in a lot of ways. And many people feel like they should be able to kind of encase the outcome, like enclose the outcome in a bubble and make it be this way. And it's like, it's another individual. It's another other self that you're actually working with, and what they need and expect and have at work in their lives might not be exactly what you foresee. So sometimes it's just that process of getting that energy moving in the right direction. So that's to say, let's see, two more things. Live as it is. When they said that, it's pretty cool, which in my assessment, that's kind of like live in the now. I think that's what they meant. Live as it is. When you're living in the as it is moment, like they were saying, you are living in the now. You realize things that are happening. You realize that you're outputting. You realize that you are a part of everything that's happening in the moment. And that is the most profound and powerful way to live. And when you're controlling the moment, when you're enjoying the moment, utilizing the moment, using your own thoughts for positive things or helpful things or beneficial things or better than not bad, not good things, right? Like you're using your process, even if it's just like, I got to get some toilet paper. Good. Like I'm going to go down to the store. Let's do that. Like that's cool. That's a good use of the now time too. So, we need toilet paper, but if you're spending your time being angry at Susie next door, if you're spending your time trying to plan the demise of your boss or something crazy like that, that's not good. That's a bad use of time, and you're sending negative vibes that are going to come back on you. Again, what we send out, what we do to other selves comes back to us. Nothing is ever void from us. In fact, they say it comes back tenfold, and I actually think there's a lot of truth to that. So what you send out, you will receive back, be it good or bad. Important. Spiritual transfer is... Oh, yeah, be careful. So spiritual transfer is a really cool kind of transfer of energy. You're transferring as a teach, learn, learn, teach. And when you're doing it in that case, so when you guys have that opportunity, take it and run with it, of course. Spiritual transfer is awesome, but the only caution I would suggest is it's much like the parable of scattering the seed, right? You don't want to throw it out to where the weeds are. You don't want to throw it on the path. You want to throw your seed on the good soil. And so that way, when you're spending time with people with your spiritual energy, you're helping and you're really benefiting the bigger picture. Because for every one single person you get kind of moving in the right direction, that's like just an enormous help to the big picture. So that's always awesome. But when you try to wake somebody up or you try to get somebody to start thinking or believing in a certain way and they're not ready for it, you're scattering your seed in the weeds or wasting your time throwing it on the path. You're wasting your energy. And now you're going to feel exhausted because you were trying to expend energy for something that you're not getting any sort of rebound with. It's not working out properly. All right. All set. All right. So I got a question here. I got two questions actually. Juju asks, why does R.A. always say Ra? Why does Ra always say his name before he talks? So the way it's written is they're like, all right, this is the questioner did this, and then Ra did this. Now, Ra always says, I am Ra, as to acknowledge that she is in contact with the being that's claiming to be Ra. it's just sort of a thing they established as kind of a relationship and a way of knowing that this is the response that we're getting. There's actually been a few times where Ra wasn't stated that way, and they've had some issues with that narrowband contact before. So I think it's one of the things they do to try to help make sure the connection is as pure as it can be. Because when you open yourself up to stuff like channeling, like Carla was especially, you open yourself up to anybody coming in. So that's why it was so narrowband. That was the importance of it, and that was also the point of the other two guys in the group with the energetics of that. I think they had another one that came in at one point, but that was the point of keeping that energetics around Carla, was in fact for that, to try to keep that balance, try to help that narrow band, because when the dark sees it, they jump on it. And if you're just broadcasting it open, like a lot of channels do, which is fine, you want to do that, you're doing that. But a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to be channeling questions on Thursdays. And it's just like, all right, like all the dark just like hovering above your microphone, waiting to ask crazy questions or put crazy thoughts into you or whatever. And if you're not aware of how dark will start to manipulate the situation, then you won't recognize it when it's happening. And so you've got to be careful. There's tricks to it. It's something I experience and still learn all the time. In fact, it's funny how it kind of plays out in real life. So yeah, that's one thing. Question from Sheila. Do you believe the 3 other energy transfer types can be physically felt? I don't remember what the 3 specific ones were. Spiritual, physical, and I feel like there was another one. Can they be physically felt? Yes, I talk about it. I call it thought transmissions. Certainly the way thinking can be. When you imagine somebody, they can feel that. They have to be sensitive in and of themselves. So I definitely think that can happen. I actually think there's a lot of conversations that happen between many of us, our higher selves, if you will, back and forth, and we don't realize we're just having a conversation maybe in our head, but in reality, you're actually having a conversation. So yeah, there's, I think, something to that, Sheila, certainly. I think they can be I think physically might be the wrong word choice, I would say. They can be felt, I would say, and I would say probably from more of a psychic standpoint, if you will, psychically rather than physically. You can have physical experiences from people, but I guess only if you allow that, because otherwise, it's energy, and if you allow that energy to have power where it can actually affect you physically, then you might, if you allow that in. I would actually, it's definitely not something I've ever given anyone permission to do, for sure. So but I psychically feel things, certainly a lot. So I don't know, maybe that's something other people feel, that I'm just maybe not wired that way. I'm here to be a communicator and a talker. Maybe that feeler like that might not be my thing. I think you're kind of into healing and stuff like that. So who knows? Maybe that's kind of how you're wired. You might have a slightly different take on it in the big picture. But all said, we're going to hop into 74. 74 gets into, talks about trance a little bit and how she feels pain in trance. And they kind of explain, yeah, she does, and you shouldn't feel pain. They get into that. We've also got, archetypal mind. They get into this whole archetype thing. It's not just around magic, by the way, because they talk about the magician a lot. It actually has a lot to do with tarot, or however you want to say it. It's a way that you can get answers from your outward world, if you will. Have inward questions and you want help from the outward world, there are a number of tools that are available. The cards, tarot, definitely have a place. I've certainly got a deck. I've used them. I've done many a throw in my life. And I've also even done things like I've even flipped coins. That works. That's fun. Another one, stress testing. You can put your fingers together. It's a fun one. I don't know if you've ever done it, but you put these fingers together and then the same over here, but you ask a yes/no question. And if it's a no, your fingers will break apart. And if it's a yes, they'll stay together. And you're not like trying to reef it apart, but you'll get the feeling of it. So it's another way that you can interact and with yourself and the physical world and try to learn things. Again, you'll start to become dependent in a way on them, and then your life will kind of push you back on it, and it'll stop working properly, and it'll just mess with you. So again, when the time is right, it serves its purpose early on. Long term, it's not necessarily something that I don't think you need. right? It's funny. It's like crystals. You don't need them, but I certainly use them when it comes to these live broadcasts because I feel like it helps, right? It's just sometimes it's psychological. So again, it's all good. It's not necessary per se, but it can help. So yeah, we've got. They talk about blockages. I think blockages are very important. That's why I keep talking about your energy centers, making sure you really learn how to heal your chakras. Find a book. I don't care. Like find something, find videos, whatever, however you like to learn. That's something I highly recommend that you also look into. Your chakras are very important. And as you clean them, you'll notice one, health benefits, but two, your life changes in weird ways. It's very cool. It's super fun when you do it. And that's one of the things I think I love most about being on the path, frankly, is you see it happen in your real life. Like as I make changes, my life changes like almost immediately. I mean, like easily by the day, like next day I'm waking up and I'm having crazy experiences that totally just match what happened. So it's been like that for years and years and years. I know other people that have had these experiences that I've worked with. So it's just kind of one of the things that typically happens. So very, very cool in that regards, in my opinion. We get into the discipline of personality, and we also get into language, which is kind of interesting. There's a lot to be said about language, the original pronunciation of words that has been changed. The way that we don't even teach etymology anymore, like where words come from. I just heard a cool video about that recently, and they haven't taught that since like the 30s or something like that. Like it's ridiculous. So we are very unaware of the incantations that we utilize on a daily basis and give power to other places. Again, realizing that we're the creator and all that, that's really the most important thing. All said, this is 74. I think it covers a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. Is, of course, on the Fringe, the Law of One series, Dan RadioStyle. Law of One, Session 74, recorded October 28th, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of this instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Questioner, before I get to new material, last session, there seems to have been some small error that I corrected, then having to do with the statement, no working comes from it, but only through it. Was this an error in transmission, or what caused this problem? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument, while fully open to our narrow band contact, at times experiences a sudden strengthening of the distortion which you call pain. This weakens the contact momentarily. This type of increased distortion has been occurring in this instrument's bodily complex with more frequency in the prime period, which you may term the previous fortnight. Although it is not normally a phenomenon which causes difficulties in transmission, it did so twice in the previous working. Both times it was necessary to correct or rectify the contact. Questioner, could you please describe the trance state, as I am somewhat confused with respect to how, when in trance, pain can affect the instrument, since I was of the opinion that there was to be no feeling of pain of the bodily complex in the trance state. Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. The instrument has no awareness of this or other sensations. However, we of Ra use the yellow ray-activated physical complex as a channel through which to speak. As the mind-body-spirit complex of the instrument leaves this physical shell in our keeping, it is finally adjusted to our contact. However, the distortion which you call pain, when sufficiently severe, mitigates against proper contact, and, when the increased distortion is violent, can cause the tuning of the channel to waver. This tuning must then be corrected, which we may do as the instrument offers us the opportunity freely. Questioner, in a previous session there was a question on the archetypal mind that was not fully answered. I would like to continue with the answer to that question. Could you please continue with that, or would it be necessary for me to read the entire question over again? Ra, I am Ra. As a general practice, it is well to vibrate the query at the same space-time as the answer is desired. However, in this case it is acceptable to us that a note be inserted at this point in your recording of these sound vibratory complexes, referring to the location of the query in previous workings. The query, though thoughtful, is in some degree falling short of the realization of the nature of the archetypal mind. We may not teach learn for any other to the extent that we become learned teachers. Therefore, we shall make some general notations upon this interesting subject and allow the questioner to consider and further refine any queries. The archetypal mind may be defined as that mind which is peculiar to the logos of this planetary sphere. Thusly, unlike the great cosmic all-mind, it contains the material which it pleased the logos to offer as refinements to the great cosmic beingness. The archetypal mind, then, is that which contains all facets which may affect mind or experience. The magician was named as a significant archetype. However, it was not recognized that this portion of the archetypal mind represent not a portion of the deep subconscious, but the conscious mind, and more especially the will. The archetype called by some the high priestess, then, is the corresponding intuitive or subconscious faculty. Let us observe the entity as it is in the relationship to the archetypal mind. You may consider the possibility of utilizing the correspondence between the mind-body-spirit in microcosm and the archetypal mind-body-spirit closely approaching the Creator. For instance, in your ritual performed to purify this place, you use the term Vegubura. It is a correct assumption that this is a portion or aspect of the one infinite Creator. However, there are various correspondences with the archetypal mind which may be more and more refined by the adept. Vegubura is the correspondence of Michael, of Mars, of the positive, of maleness. Vegudula has correspondence to Jupiter, to femaleness, to the negative, to that portion of the tree of life concerned with Ariel. We could go forward with more and more refinements of these two entries into the archetypal mind. We could discuss color correspondences, relationships with other archetypes, and so forth. This is the work of the adept, not to teach learner. We may only suggest that there are systems of study which may address themselves to the aspects of the archetypal mind, and it is well to choose one and study carefully. It is more nearly well if the adept go beyond whatever has been written to make such correspondences that the archetypes can be called upon at will. There's a note that we need to see 6728, but going back to that, let's, I guess, check that really fast. Oh, yeah, they're just talking about the accuracy, inaccuracy. They make mistakes here and there. Again, they talk about how the Carla is sometimes injured and there's sometimes some blockages, so some of that is expected. All said. Questioner, I have a question here that I am going to answer and let you correct. I see that the disciplines of the personality feed the indigo ray energy center and affect the power of the white magician by unblocking the lower energy centers and allowing for a free flow of the upward spiraling light to reach the indigo center. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, would you please correct me? Ra, I am Ra. The indigo center is indeed most important for the work of the adept. However, it cannot, no matter how crystallized, correct to any extent whatsoever imbalances or blockages in other energy centers. They must needs be cleared seriatim from red upwards. Questioner, I'm not sure if I understand this. The question is, how do disciplines of the personality feed the indigo ray energy center and affect the power of the white magician? Does that question make sense? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, would you answer it, please? Ra, I am Ra. We would be happy to answer this query. We understood the previous query as being of other import. The indigo ray is the ray of the adept. A great deal of the answer you seek is in this sentence. There is an identification between the crystallization of that energy center and the improvements of the working of the mind-body-spirit as it begins to transcend space-time balancing and to enter the combined realms of the space-time and time-space. Questioner, let me see if I have a wrong opinion here of the effect of disciplines of the personality. I was assuming that a discipline of the personality to, shall we say, have a balanced attitude towards a single fellow entity would properly clear and balance, to some extent, the orange ray energy center. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. We cannot say that you speak incorrectly, but merely less than completely. The disciplined personality, when faced with another self, has all centers balanced according to its unique balance. Thusly, the other self looks in a mirror seeing itself. Questioner, now the disciplines of the personality I see as the paramount work of any who have become consciously aware of the process of evolution. Am I correct on that statement? Ra, I am Ra. Quite. Questioner, now, what I am trying to get at is how these disciplines affect the energy centers and the power, shall I say, of the white magician. Will you tell me how that works? Ra, I am Ra. The heart of the discipline of the personality is threefold. 1. Know yourself. 2. Accept yourself. 3. Become the creator. The third step is that step which, when accomplished, renders one of the most humble servants of all, transparent in personality and completely able to know and accept other selves. In relation to the pursuit of the magical working, the continuing discipline of the personality involves the adept in knowing itself, accepting itself, and thus clearing the path towards the great indigo gateway to the Creator. To become the Creator is to become all that there is. There is then no personality in the sense of which the adept begins its learned teaching. As the consciousness of the indigo ray becomes more crystalline, more work may be done, more may be expressed from intelligent infinity. Questioner, you stated that a working of service to others has the potential of learning a great mass of light strength. Could you describe just exactly how this works and what the uses of this would be? Ra, I am Ra. There are sound vibratory complexes which act much like the dialing of your telephone. When they are appropriately vibrated with accompanying will and concentration, it is as though many upon your metaphysical or inner planes received a phone call. This call they answer by their attention to your working. Questioner, there are many of these. The ones most obvious in our society are those used in the church rather than those used by the magical adept. What is the difference in the effect of those used, say, in the church, in our various churches, and those specifically magical incantations used by the adept? Ra, I am Ra. If all in your churches were adepts consciously full of will, of seeking, of concentration, of conscious knowledge of the calling, there would be no difference. The efficacy of the calling is a function of the magical qualities of those who call, that is, their desire to seek the altered state of consciousness desired. Questioner, in selecting a protective ritual, we finally agreed upon the banishing ritual of the lesser pentagram. I assume that these sound vibratory complexes are the type you speak for the alerting of those of the inner planes. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, if we had constructed a ritual of our own with words used for the first time in the sequence of protection, what would have been the relative merit of this with respect to the ritual that we chose? Ra, I am Ra. It would be less. In constructing ritual, it is well to study the body of written work which is available for names of positive or service to others power are available. Questioner, I will make an analogy to the loudness of ringing of the telephone in using the ritual as the efficacy of the practitioner using the ritual. Now, I see several things affecting the efficacy of the ritual. First, the desire of the practitioners to serve, their ability to invoke the magical personality, their ability to visualize while performing the ritual, and let me ask you as to the relative importance of those items and how each may be intensified. Ra, I am Ra. This query borders upon overspecificity. It is most important for the adept to feel its own growth as teach-learner. We may only say that you correctly surmise the paramount import of the magical personality. This is a study in itself. With the appropriate emotional will, polarity, and purity, work may be done with or without proper sound vibration complexes. However, there is no need for the blunt instrument when the scalpel is available. Questioner: I assume that the reason that the rituals that have been used previously are of effect is that these words have built a bias in consciousness of those who have worked in these areas, so that those who are of the distortion of mind that we seek will respond to the imprint in consciousness of these series of words. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is, to a great extent, correct. The exception is the sounding of some of what you call your Hebrew and some of what you call your Sanskrit vowels. These sound vibration complexes have power before time and space and represent configurations of light which built all that there is. Questioner: why do these sounds have this property? Ra: I am Ra. The correspondence in vibratory complex is mathematical. At this time, we have enough transferred energy for one full query. Questioner: how did the users of these sounds, Sanskrit and Hebrew, determine what these sounds were? Ra: I am Ra. In the case of the Hebrew, that entity known as Yahweh aided this knowledge through impression upon the material of genetic coding, which became language, as you call it. In the case of Sanskrit, the sound vibrations are pure due to the lack of previous, what you call, alphabet or letter naming. Thus, the sound vibration complexes seem to fall into place as from the logos. This was a more, shall we say, natural or unaided situation or process. We would at this time make note of the incident in the previous working where our contact was incorrectly placed for a short period and was then corrected. In the exercise of the fire, you may see the initial spiral clockwise from the green ray energy center through the shoulders and head, then through the elbows, then to the left hand. The channel had been corrected before the remainder of this answer was completed. Is there a brief query at this time? Questioner: is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra: I am Ra. All is well. The instrument continues in some pain, as you call this distortion. The neck area remains most distorted, although the changes have been, to a small degree, helpful. The alignments are good. We would leave you now, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, glorying and rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. So yeah, I mean, just there's a lot of really, really good stuff in there that I would, I could do a whole hour, 2 hour long show just on some of the crazy in there. So a lot of it I'm just going to kind of leave for you all to sort of marinate with. There's a lot to digest, but I do have a few points, and we'll see if I get any questions, but maybe not. But we are close to the hour mark anyway, so it's good. Ra, I just wanted to point out, is also a social memory complex. So when this is Ra, I am Ra, they're acknowledging that it's a social memory complex that's being spoken for, and it's not an individual. So it's also important. I just felt like I needed to pull that up and remind people. Indigo is the adept. It's essentially your energy. They've talked about it a lot. It's like your frequency. So it is colored. Your upper color really is everything, not just the indigo ray, but it's part of that. And so that's really where your adept teacher component is above that fifth chakra, above your, let's see, Roy G. Biv, blue, indigo, right. So just above your blue, which I think is speaking throat, and then indigo is usually your third eye. Many say it's the, I'm drawing a blank on the pine cone gland right now, but it's okay. Someone will get it in chat out there. I'm sure Sheila's got this, but yeah, your pituitary, not your pituitary, the pineal gland. There it is. These things all work together. They've tried to calcify our pineal. It's been a big part of what they've tried to do to hold us down. But there's, a whole array of things working for and against us. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's catalyst. There's a reason for the catalyst. That's why so many people respond to it and need to respond to it. And that's why we're going through the radical, crazy times that we're going through, because it's the ultimate catalyst. It's meant to even wake up people that aren't awake. Let's see, knowing self. Knowing self is super important. Know thyself is very, very most important thing we can possibly do when it comes to learning how to get to the next step. The next step is going to be dependent upon paying attention to what's going on inside ourselves, what admonishments I give myself. Like, when do I get mad at myself and say weird things and hold myself down? When am I maybe putting out bad energy with other people? There's just a lot of different ways that can manifest itself. And we need to pay attention to what's being shown to us on the screen. That's our life. And if you're paying attention to that screen and you're seeing things that you don't like, then understand what it is. And that understanding is going to come from yourself, because that's what's projecting it outward on the screen is you. And so when you get that, when you find that, when you figure that out, you can actually heal, change, love, whatever you got to do to it. And then you'll notice it no longer shows up on the screen. It's pretty cool how it actually plays out. And again, you'll see it play out. Like, it'll prove itself to you. You can't prove it to anyone else, but you can prove it to yourself. That's it. And that's one of the other things. It's an ego thing when you're trying to show other people. I'm trying to do this to show other people. That's ego. Like, you don't want to do that. That's not what it's about. Church equals magic. They made a fun little comparison in there. I didn't want to get too lost in this because, again, I could talk a long time on this one too. But the church, especially the Catholic Church, they're like really, really into ritual stuff. A whole lot of that is ritualistic. It's meant to be. And so there's a process, this magical event that's occurring that they want you to be a part of and buy into. So again, that's a big part of how a lot of these different practices work. I might know a bit more about magic than I lead on to, but it's certainly not a germane thing at all. And it's one of those things where if you want to learn anything about it, that's up to you and your place. But I'm certainly not in any sort of public environment. And probably I would be very careful who I chose to ever talk about these types of things. So just saying, it's something I don't talk about with people in general, unless I really, really know them. Magic's a trippy thing, and it can be very, very dangerous if put in the wrong hands. Let's just say that. So all of that said, let's see if I got any questions, which I don't seem to. I would say woohoo is where we're at. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for being a part of this. I love you guys. We might do a couple 5 minutes after just to see if anyone wants to show up, but I don't think it's going to be very long, guys. For those of you that want to hop on and join, please feel free. We'll do that here in a couple minutes. But I love you guys. We're going to continue moving through this and hopefully learning this stuff. It comes down to what you understand and how you experience your own reality and what you're doing to make that better. When you finally nail down your own reality and everything's like kind of going really cool, that's when you kind of step it up and start making a bigger difference, certainly with everyone else. And I think that's very, very powerful with what we're going through as a planet, as co-creators, as other selves, and as single creators. All of this is coming together. It's pretty cool. We're in magical times right now. I love it. All said, I love you guys. Certainly where we go one, we go all. And when it comes to that, law of one makes a lot of sense, right? We go one, we go all. We're all together on this. But it is on the Fringe, and it is Dan RadioStyle. I appreciate you guys for being here tonight. Have a great night. Be blessed. And happy 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe, starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.